In this video you will learn the true benefits of the project chart and I will explain what you should include in it, and I'll give you some real life examples. And last but not least, I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to make project charter valuable for your project even if your stakeholders doesn't want to spend time on it. Alright, in theory it seems like creating a project chart is such an inspiring process. Stakeholders are willing to get together and discuss the problems of the project to create the common vision. And think about it for a moment. You need clients, customers, your sponsor and some key stakeholders on one meeting to create this document. But in the real world you will have to fight for the attention of these people. By the way, do you know that by this moment clients and customers and your leadership has already discussed the project and they have vision of how it should be, how much it costs and so on? Didn't you know that? Let me explain you. For sure, every project starts with some kind of the pre-sales phase, where clients find your organization and they hire you as a vendor to do a project. The same happens for in-house projects. Your executives and directors of departments come together and start discussing what they need to implement to achieve strategic goals. This way they decide what projects to take for the whole organization. But on these meetings they focus on budget, deadlines and some contract details. But what about scope of work? What about assumptions, constraints and risks that are important for the project? They assume that you will solve that within given constraints that they will allocate for you. And if you didn't know this, I do recommend you to go tomorrow and find out how do projects appear or come to your company. What's the process of enrolling a new client? Oh, by the way, and here's a definition of the project charter, and I find it so misleading. Project charter is a document issued by the project initiator or sponsor that formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with authority to apply organizational resources to project activities. Alright, do you think that this definition really kills the true value of the project charter that we'll discuss in just a minute? If yes or no, just disagree or agree with me in the comments below. Also, you may know this document as a request for project or scope of work or simply project charter. But it's all the same document. You need to look into the contents of it, not the name of the document. Okay, after all this you may think, well, why do I need to create a project charter after this pre-sales phase if they have already discussed it? And that's the main benefit of the project charter. You need to fix false expectations that were formed during the pre-sales phase, not by a project manager. But there are more benefits that you can get, and you already heard that project charter gives an authority to a project manager and gives you authority to use company resources, but that's the least important benefit for you. And if you come to clients or customers with a document and say that we need to draft it all together so that you can give me authority and permission to use the resources, most likely they will say go do your job. But if you approach it from the other direction and say that, hey, I want to ensure that I spend your money and resources efficiently and that we will finish the project successfully and with the product or service that you actually want, that's how you will get their attention. Alright, now let's talk about the 4 crucial benefits of the project charter that you need to aim for. And the first one of them is the description of how the success looks like for this project. And it's a general approach to creating a project charter. You need to ensure that your clients and customers and sponsors understand how the project success looks like. They need to envision what kind of deliverables they will get in the end. Moreover, they need to understand how these tangible deliverables will help them to achieve the project objective and how this project objective will impact the bottom line for a company. And the bottom line for any company is profit. Second, you need to set boundaries for the project. And you need to set boundaries for the project in terms of timeline, in terms of budget, and most importantly in terms of scope of work. Okay, now just imagine the project to create or develop a new iPhone application. What kind of efforts will it take to create this app from start to finish? So you may need a business analyst, you may need UX designers, graphic artists, you need development team, and quite possible you may need iOS developers and backend developers, you need quality assurance team, marketing and sales team, and so on. And at the beginning of a project it might not be clear the expectations of clients in regards to all these knowledge domains for the application. So they may or may not have the requirements already specified, so you may or may not need a business analyst. Likewise, they may have an in-house design team, therefore you won't need to hire designers. That's why you need to set the boundaries of the project scope by listing the major deliverables, because at some point your clients even may change their mind and you will need to acquire these resources in the long run, but you will have the project charter which says that it wasn't agreed in the beginning. It means that it's a change request and it's an amendment to the contract and the project charter, which gives you an opportunity to integrate this change seamlessly into the project without much stress for the team. Next, a project charter should identify measurable success criteria for project success. Yes, we talked about how the project success should look like and what tangible deliverables we need to create. But you need to understand that the project objective is not to create deliverables, it's to achieve some business goals by means of these deliverables. And these business objectives should be measurable. So for example, if they say that we need to significantly increase sales by creating a new version of the application, it's a bad goal because significant is somewhat subjective goal and everyone can understand it differently. But if you say that we need to increase sales by 15% by the release of this version of application, that's a smart goal. And here's another example. Your project needs to create a corporate social network. And there might be completely different objectives here. You might need to create something for in-house use, or you may want to beat Facebook Workplace on the market and make the competitor here. As you understand, this will be completely different budgets, timelines, and goals. And here's a side note and exception for smaller projects, because on smaller projects you can set goals that are oriented on deadlines and budget, like finish the application by 20th of July with budget under $30,000. But anyway, keep in mind that without setting boundaries for the project, there is no way you can set measurable goals for success. Last but not least, your project charter should align different groups of stakeholders towards the goal. In the process of identifying the project goal and measurable success criteria, you will have to identify the background of the project. Why do we start it in the first place? Do we start a project to introduce a new profitable product to the market? Or do we work on a quick update just to keep the product and the company on the float? Or do we create a hot fix for a critical defect to stop losing clients on daily basis? So knowing the background for the application will ensure that you will limit initiatives and requirements from internal and external stakeholders. For example, if you do a project to quickly fix a problem, you will not include some shiny new features in this update. Likewise, if you create an update for the product just to get some critically needed income for the company, you will choose the most cost-efficient and benefit-driven features for the product. Alright, moving on, and now I will explain what you should include in the project charter, and I will give you some examples from real world so that you understand how to write it and what you should write in your drafts. But before we move on, if you watched this video so far and you found it informative, give me a signal, give me a thumbs up right now. It will mean a lot for me. Thank you in advance. The contents of a project charter. Let's talk about it. Project title and short name. First of all, you need an official name for the project. It's a way to differentiate your project among other projects in your organization. It's also useful to think of a short name, an abbreviation that you will use in project management software and different systems. So the project name here is Image Library Service Site Update, the code name Project Redesign, and Jira code is RED. Next comes project description. Here we want to describe what this project is all about. It's a simple description of the project background as we discussed it above. It will also help you to connect with the business case and understand the requirements more clearly. Here what we have for our example. The last update of the image library service site was done 3 years ago. It is outdated in terms of appearance, performance and user experience. An investigation was conducted to develop performance requirements and a new vision for the UI. The purpose of this project is to develop new design and implement a brand new site. The new site deployment is not a part of this project. Due to its complexity, it will be done as a separate project. Any updates or improvements to the database should not be performed unless needed. Notice that we have already set some boundaries for the project. Technical requirements, the deployment is not a part of the project, but on the other side, user interface design and implementation of this interface is the part of the project. Next in the project charter we have assigned project manager. That's the only place that formally states that you are the one who makes decisions on the project. Project manager role brings a lot of responsibility, so at least ensure that your authority is recognized here. Also in the project charter we may have project manager's authority. Your authority has limits. Here you need to clarify whether you can determine, manage and make changes to the budget, scope, schedule on your own or request team members, for example. In most cases there will be a limit where you will have to get approval from sponsors or your customers to certain aspects of the project. So in our example, Nizhbetsky Dmitry is assigned as a project manager. He has authority to select required team and determine the final budget. So here I have a specific authority to dictate the budget for the project, but as you learn in a minute, within given constraints. Next comes the business case. Business case explains what is the justification for the project. Is it a financial, a legal or a market matter? Why it was decided to do this project and allocate money for it. Business case stated in the project charter has exceptional importance, because during the execution phase any change to the project should be checked against the business case. If the change is not aligned with it, it's automatically rejected in most cases. In our example, the business case is the following. All closest competitors have up-to-date, responsive and fast websites. Customer satisfaction of our service has dropped to a level of severe attrition. This project is called to update the image library service site. The new site should have a good search and filtering capabilities. UI should be clutter-free and focused on finding and previewing images in the library. The site should be fast, responsive and support available accessibility features. We expect to regain our first position as the image content provider within a year after the new site is online. This justification of the project is very clear. Most likely there are calculations behind it. They would prove that we'll get expected return on investment. Also notice that we have a tangible objective here. We need to regain the first position as an image content provider within a year. The next part of the charter is pre-assigned resources. At this moment you may not have a team yet, but someone has to help you to decide what needs to be done. So you'll have some pre-assigned resources beforehand. Their names and availability will be stated here. So in our example, Patricia Smith from design team is already assigned to the project on a full-time basis. Other resources will be identified by the project manager. Next section is stakeholders. Key stakeholders are stated here. It is a list of people or a group of people who can influence your project or will be influenced by your project and its results. So in our example, Andrew Peterson represents the design team, Ray Jackson from customer support team, Laura James from marketing. They are available to support the project as required. Do notice that these stakeholders can help you, but they are not a part of the project team. Next, we need to state high-level requirements. So you state high-level requirements as they are known as of now. Keep in mind that you can refer to other documents here, no need to put full text in the project charter. So in our example we state that as attachments to this document there are requirements to the performance of a new site and description of general vision of its design. In no way the new website should reduce existing functionality for users. Here we refer to a document that someone created beforehand, but likewise you can put some additional high-level requirements here. Next we want to describe the product, service or result or its deliverables. So here it will be a list of deliverables or descriptions of the end result, service or product that the project should provide. It may include project management deliverables such as work breakdown structure, risk register, budget and so on. Also, it can be intermediate results for the product development. So here's what we have in our example. Here's the list of major deliverables that stakeholders expect to get. Full design of the new site as a storyboard, work breakdown structure, human resources plan, list of project-related risks. The new version of the site that is tested and ready for deployment. Next section is dedicated to assumptions. These are the factors that for planning purposes are considered to be true, real or certain without proof or demonstration. In our example we have such assumptions. No new hardware is required. No changes to the database are required. Internal resources are capable of finishing the project. After that we have constraints. These are applicable restrictions or limitations either internal or external to the project that will affect the performance of the project team. So the new site should be ready for deployment by October 20. Work breakdown structure should be completed within 1 week. List of risks should be provided within 3 weeks. Final project budget should be approved within 3 weeks. The final design should be ready and approved within 2 months. Next we have project objectives. And it's crucial, you can fulfill and implement requirements in many different ways. However, the project was started to achieve a particular business goal. While your final product, service or result may be functional and usable, it might not be able to achieve the project objective. And as we discussed already, objectives here should be concrete and measurable. Meeting these objectives will mean you finish the project successfully. The objective of this project is to develop a site with speed performance levels stated in the requirements. Attrition should be reduced to 3%. Budget limit and deadlines are the next priority. Release date due no later than October 20, 2020. Maximum budget $100,000. You see, there is a constraint for a maximum budget. But likewise, in the same document, a project manager has authority to dictate the final budget. So I think they assume there is some options and opportunities here if your detailed budget is below this mark. Next we need to describe project approval requirements. This section should state what items of the project should be approved and by whom. It is common for sponsors to approve WBS and schedule and budget baselines, and sometimes a list of risks. So, final design will be approved by the head of design department. WBS will be approved by sponsor. List of risks will be approved by sponsor. After that we have project risks. Risks are uncertain events or conditions that, if they occur, have a positive or negative effect on project performance. This section contains only high-level risks. They will be later elaborated during risk management process. In our example we have: because we have little experience in improving and measuring customer satisfaction, it is possible that the new site will not meet end users' expectations. Therefore, our goals will not be reached. Also, due to customer attrition, project delays may cause serious customer losses. Last but not least, we have signatures of project sponsors. All in all, project sponsors should sign the project charter, but likewise you can get an approval via email. By the way, the sponsor of this video is my free career cheat sheet for project managers. I know firsthand it's challenging and overwhelming to get your first project management role. This cheat sheet gives you an action plan to get promotion to a project manager in the nearest future. If you want to become a project manager, do get a copy of this cheat sheet after this video. I'll leave you a link in the description. So how do you develop a project charter in the real world? And the main point here is that you don't do it alone. But it's contradicting to what I just said. You will be fighting for attention from your stakeholders, clients and sponsors. It means you won't be able to get all these people into one meeting to first discuss the benefits of the charter, get their buy-in on creating it, and then discussing all the aspects that you want to capture in this document. So you need to work a bit smarter and you need to draft the project charter yourself from the information you get from different stakeholders. Also, if your stakeholders don't see value in creating a project charter as a document, you can work around it by collecting the information from the project charter without formalizing the process. Okay, here's a step-by-step guide for you on how to create a project charter. First of all, you need to check who is responsible for creating a charter and if it's mandatory in your company. Most likely there is no responsible person for it and you need to create it on your own. Second, check if there is a template in your organization, and if not, think about creating one for the future. Then plan short meetings with your sponsors, clients, customers and key stakeholders, and I recommend you to do it via phone or any virtual conference. Unless you are co-located, don't do it live, save their time. On the meetings, collect information about the business case, high-level requirements, project background, constraints, assumptions, risks. So here you work with each stakeholder separately, which will help you to identify inconsistencies and inalignment between their visions to this project. Then you need to ensure that you understand the project objective and how it is aligned with the business case. Next, and it's really difficult on practice, you need to understand the real expectations of key stakeholders towards your project. But this is beyond this video, but I do have a separate article on this and I'll leave you a link in the description. After you collect all this information, you need to make the first draft of the charter. With this draft of the charter, you need to consult with the in-house subject matter experts, maybe you have some historical data to review, and you need to look for similar projects that can give you some insights. After that, you update the draft. Next, you meet with the pre-assigned team members for your project and get their input. After that, you update the draft. And only after that, you plan a meeting with clients and key stakeholders and present them this draft of the project chart. Ideally, in one set you will be able to present this draft and get feedback from the clients. And after that you will be able to update and finalize the project charter. And as the last step, you will send an email to get the sign-off on this charter from your clients and sponsors. Believe me, from my experience, this process takes about 1 or 2 days maximum, because your project charter should not be more than 5 pages long. Otherwise, no one will read it. And as you can see from the process, you as a project manager can create the draft of the project charter without putting all these important people into one room, which will save you a lot of time from debates. Moreover, in the process you will face the conflicts in the vision towards the project, and most likely you will be able to fix some of them, at least for internal stakeholders. This way, on the meetings with clients and sponsors, you will be able to provide all the information on the conflict and help them to make a quick decision right at the spot. You can find the link for template and the example that we discussed in this video in the description below. Also, if you want to become a project manager, do get your copy of the career change cheat sheet for project managers. And if you want to learn more about project management and leadership, do subscribe to this channel right now. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching it. See you later.